Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Annan Common Good Fund meeting. Currently, we're not quorate, so we're going to leave it for 10 minutes because we're expecting Ian Crothers, Councillor Crothers, to come on board at some point. So we'll give it 10 minutes and then we'll recommence. Thank you. Good evening, members, and welcome to this public meeting of Annan Common Good Fund Subcommittee. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded. Just to remind folks to refer to councillors with their Sunday name so that folk know who's speaking. Those that are on remote, please follow the good practice guidance. I'm sure we're all aware of that by now. Move on to agenda point 1, the Sederant apologies and Chair's approval of members' remote participation. Amanda, can you provide the Sederant? Any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. In person in the hall tonight, we have yourself, Chair. We have Alan Kay and Alan Weald, who are our community representatives. And on Teams, we have Councillors Brodie, Carruthers and Marshall. No apologies, thank you.
Thank you. Have we got any declarations of interest before we begin? That's Richard.
Yeah, I've got a statement of connection in item 5 and item 7. I'm a member of Annan History Town Group and the matters relating to it, these items, but I intend to stay within the meeting. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. We'll move on to the next agenda point, which is the minutes of the meeting on the 20th of November. Presuming everybody's had a chance to peruse these, has anybody got anything they'd like to raise? I'll take that as a no, and we'll move on to the next agenda point, which is agenda point 4, the Annan Common Good Fund Monitoring Report for 2024-25. There's a report here by the Head of Thriving Communities. The report provides members with an overview of the performance against the financial plan for the period ending 30th September 2024, which is Q1 for Annan Common Good Fund. Jamie Nicholson is here to take any questions, so if anybody has any questions, please either identify on screen or hold your hand up. Sean, Councillor Marshall.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just in relation to, there's obviously an application later on, but there's also some potential funding for repairs at John Bell Plainfield. I take it both of these would come out of the 4,451 that we have at our disposal for this financial year. Just seeking clarity on both those aspects.
Carry on. Yep. Sorry, carry on.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. Yes, I can confirm that the fee income available would encompass and cover both of those that are presented later on, with the request for financial assistance, which appears later on the agenda, and it would also encompass and be relevant for the repairs should members wish to proceed with those.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Jamie. If there's no other issues to be raised, I'll just go to recommendations, which is 2.1 to note 2024-25 monitoring report for the period 31st December 2024 in the appendix, and to note the projected fee income of 4,451.17 pence as outlined in paragraph 3.2. Are we content to note both these? We'll take that as a yes. Move on to the next agenda point. This is agenda 5, Annan Common Good Fund assets. This is a report by the Head of Thriving Communities. This report provides members with an update of the current register of Annan Common Good assets, their assets, values and any current issues. Again, Jamie will be happy to take any questions on the report. No queries? No? Anything you would like to add in clarification, Jamie?
Thank you, Chair. Just with regards to members, we will be aware that we've had numerous meetings with residents of the Seaforth area. We think that we have a solution to the issues that we had with regards to the locking of the gates. I'm pleased to say that we've investigated, and under the volunteering strategy, we believe that volunteers, that if residents wish to become formal volunteers of Dumfries and Galloway Council, that would give them a degree of insurance cover, both public liability and employee liability. I've spoken with our assets team who are the lead for that area, and they're comfortable with undertaking a risk assessment of that area, providing nothing substantial or alarming is raised during that risk assessment, and members of the public or the residents that are keen to assist with this issue are okay to sign the agreement, the volunteers agreement, then we believe that this would be a way forward. We have introduced a 6-month trial period, and what we'll do is we will support the volunteers throughout that period. We will make sure that we have weekly check-ins. There'll be training as such on opening and closing the gates, and we'll make sure that there's a good rapport with the residents to try and make sure that it's a smooth transition, so we can update you at a future meeting.
Thanks, Jamie. Councillor Marshall.
Yeah, it was really just, and I was waiting for Jamie just to give us a quick update on that, just to see where we were with regards to the arrangements at John Bell Plainfield. It really just put on record the fact that I thought the meeting that was arranged with residents was very productive. Obviously, there's a lot of concerns, and I think the report actually outlines a way forward. So I know as well the ward officers put a lot of work into this, so really just to thank her for getting us to this point. We did talk about, I don't know how many volunteers, and they were talking about a WhatsApp group being set up as well, and I don't know, what are the arrangements going forward, but I'm glad we found a way that the legal within the council can accept, the arrangements we've got putting in place through the volunteer arrangements. And I think, look forward to the 6-month trial and hopefully operate to everyone's satisfaction. The one thing as well, because obviously we have been made aware, I think, from the Annan Academy Parent Council as well, that they have ongoing concerns with regards to security. And I think it's in relation to the bikes, etc., that were on the field, etc. And this mentioned in the report that, and it was discussed at the meeting, that apart from securing the gates that's there is there was an intention maybe to look at actually putting the other gate on. I'm just wondering where we are with that, or whether or not education can maybe help us with that. But I think that was the other thing, which would secure it more from a perspective from Annan Academy, from that point of view. But I just really want to see if there's an update on that. And then finally, just on the Everhome Old Play Park as being the preferred option now for the statue. It's just to kind of clarify, because I know that has flooded on occasion in the past, and whether or not the statue is to be on a plinth, etc., or whether there's no danger of actually being affected by flooding there. I know that the other two options aren't being pursued now, whereas probably the preferred option that was presented to us at the last committee, obviously they don't want to go ahead with that due to a neighbourhood objection. But I've got no problems with it, just that the group are aware that that potentially can flood at times, that area. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Marshall. I'm going to hand you over to Jamie in a moment. I'll just one input from myself. Ian and myself met with Annan Parent Council, Annan Academy Parent Council, with Lan, the council officer that looks after all these sort of things, and we're a very productive meeting which touched on some of the legal aspects, and that's an ongoing process. Ian might be able to fill us in, and Jamie, as Subsequent to the meeting with the Parent Council, there was a site visit just to discuss the potential for security and with relation to the Hecklegirth, etc. But I'm going to pass you on to Jamie now, and I'll come back to you, Richard, once Jamie's given us a wee bit of background on the discussions that she's had on these things.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm pleased to report back that we've actually had 2 really productive meetings with regards to that area. One, as the Chair has rightly said, with education colleagues, and the other with our property and estates. So we have got an indicative cost to put a gate for the large entrance from John Bell's Field into the Academy playing field. What we are looking at currently at the moment is, because of the wider issue with the Annan Academy playing field and the security of that campus, is where the kissing gate or whatever that additional gate from the pathway would be situated, whether that would be situated at the end of the path of John Bell's, or would it be further on so that it would still allow that access to the back entrance to Hecklegirth. So with regards to the large gate to stop the vehicle access, we do have a cost for that, but we'll be working in partnership with our educational colleagues. So when they implement what they potentially are going to implement on the Academy field, that will be put in place then. And then we're just looking at what type of gate that will be in the actual path area that will allow the access still to continue to Hecklegirth. But we should have an update on that fairly quick. But we have met and we have got an indicative cost for the large gate.
And Jamie, just on the WhatsApp group or the arrangement with the residents about the locking of the gate, etc.
Yes, residents have indicated that they've set up a WhatsApp group, and that's how they're going to communicate. There are 6 to 8 residents that are keen to take on or be involved with the sort of pilot scheme, and they'll collectively manage that between themselves. And obviously we will support them from an officer's point of view, and also the assets team as well. So providing members agree that that's okay that we go forward, then I'll action that next week and I'll be able to give updates. And
can I just ask, sorry, can I just come back in? And is there any officer or any of the councillors involved in the WhatsApp group, or is that just for the residents?
It will just be for the residents, and then obviously we'll have officer support that will be their contact. So at the residents meeting, you'll be aware that we had 2 residents that stepped forward that would be the main contacts, and they will be the contacts that we will use as the officers going forward.
That's great, thanks.
Thanks, Sean. Richard, Councillor Brodie.
Thanks, Councillor Jimmerson. Annan History Town Group are well aware of the fact that it's a floodplain, and it'll be foundations of the statue will be founded accordingly. Actually, the view is that it will enhance the sculpture because it's about the strength of the Annan River and its power. So it'll be looking more majestic when there's flooding in the Everhome area. So that's the way they're looking at it.
Hope that's not too often.
Yeah, hopefully not too often, but it will happen.
Chair, I'm pleased to advise that at the last meeting of Annan Community Council, the police reported that the boys with the motorbikes had arrested one of them. So hopefully that will help with the motorbike problem at the playing fields there and also the rest of the town, hopefully. But with regard to the 414 Everhome, the old play park, are we going to be discussing the suitability of that site at some point just now? Because my view is that the pavilion that was erected there previously was damaged by vandals and such like, and I worry that that might well happen to the new statue because it's out of sight sort of thing, you know. And, you know, if we're going to be spending this money on something that's supposed to be a pride for the town, it seems kind of silly to put it out of the way where people can't keep an eye on it and it's open to vandalism. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thanks for that. And then also Sean's mention of the potential flooding. Point 5 on the recommendations is it's our job today to endorse or agree to endorse the old Everhome Park as a primary location for the Spirit of Annan sculpture. So I'm going to pass this back to Jamie just to give us a bit more clarification on where we go with this, because I believe previously this has been accepted as a suitable place, but so we've been asked at this point to endorse that decision. So I'll pass you over to Jamie just to give us a little bit more insight than I've got.
Thank you, Chair. I think I would just like to highlight at this moment, by endorsing it, we are just merely allowing the History Town to continue to investigate that there. Obviously a more substantial report with regards to foundations and the structure itself, and then ownership and everything like that would have to come back to a Common Good Committee when that was there. But at this moment, what they're looking for is just an initial, yes, we agree in principle that that would be a location for them to further their investigations.
Content with that?
Yes, thank you.
Richard, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, just another piece of information. Obviously, the site has been initially investigated to make sure it can take the structure safely. That's been passed, and also they are aware of security concerns at the pavilion, and that any sort of structure there would be protected, hopefully by CCTV, to make sure that vandals could be deterred on that. And as I say, there'll be more discussion about it, more details coming forward.
Thank you, Councillor Brodie. That's helpful. Councillor Marshall?
Yeah, it's just to say, Chair, that at the November meeting, the letter that we received was looking at the Battery Street location, but that has been ruled out now due to an objection by a resident. So the last time it came to committee, it was a different location that we were okaying.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Marshall. Yes, the History Town realised, or after investigations, the initial investigation, site investigations for the Battery Street, they came across a large sewage drain pipe thing. Yeah, sorry. So it wasn't a suitable location, and you're correct that they did look at the bottom of the battery then, but a resident objected to that, and then they moved on. So they just presented this third location in the interim from our last meeting, and now they have, since the report has been written, submitted their site surveys investigations, which gives you the full details of the investigation and work that's been happened on the old playing park, which I can circulate with members. At this stage, I have to say that there's been no legal checks. We've not went through our legal department, and it's obviously not came for members to actually agree. It was just to allow them to continue to move forward with their project in principle at this stage. Obviously, the robust checks with our legal and everything that must take place, and it must come back and go through the proper procedures if we want to proceed with that as a permanent fixture.
Alan?
Yeah, Chair, thanks very much. I think it's a shame that Battery Street wasn't suitable for the place. I'm a bit concerned with Everhome. It's out the way. I know they've said maybe CCTV and that, but maybe an alternative plan D. What about Jubilee Gardens for the people that are involved with it? It's not out the way, and you can see it from the road. That's another option, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we sit with that in the process. Is other options still available?
I can certainly go back to the History Town and make them aware of any concerns that have been raised this evening, and then provide the options or the alternative to see what they say.
Councillor Marshall?
Yeah, it's just on the basis, when I look at the recommendation, we're being asked to endorse it, and I don't think, when you listen to the ward officers, comments that, there's still some legal and some things to check from that point of view. So, and bear in mind, the kind of issues that have been raised about flooding and about potential vandalism, etc. We probably could only at this stage, I think, just note that and also feed back to the group that, you know, potentially there could be other locations. I kind of agree with Alan with regards to the location that he identified as well. So there's maybe a more suitable location, because as I said, we haven't really got the all clear that everything's okay to have it on the old play park. So I would prefer if we just noted that at the moment, until, you know, there's further information, but at the same time, hopefully just send a message back that there may be a more preferable option to be looked at.
Thanks, Councillor Marshall. Has anybody got any objections to that? It seems reasonable to me that we note that the Everhome Park is considered as a primary location, but other options are still available.
Thanks so much, Chair. And firstly, apologies for being late, and thanks to the committee and the wider committee for starting a wee bit later to allow me to get in. On that particular point, I've got no objection whatsoever to Councillor Marshall's proposal. I just wondered if we're going to be noting in regards to the potential still at the Everhome, still there, but should we arrange a meeting? We've done it with Alabama, we've done it with the football club, we've done it with the Scouts, we've done it with such, like, historically it's been custom and practice. And if this is something where we think we could have a further discussion direct, we could have invited them back to a meeting. That's maybe a wee bit bureaucratic, into the next meeting to discuss it or whatever, but we could have got maybe a meeting set up in between times as a suggestion, see what other members are thinking. But on the other point I just want to pick up on, which same as all other councillors that I've spoken about, so thanks very much to Jamie, the local residents and the wider, actually the legal team as well, the property services, the school, land force, whole load of people being involved in regards to get a resolution to what's going on at Seaforth, John Bell Plainfield. But I think just to touch on, so as far as the parent council seem to be quite content, is the impression that I would go at the fact that there is quite swift progress happening. So as Jamie's already outlined, just to add to that a wee bit, was because the flooding issue came up, so I think maybe Jamie has touched on that, but there's flooding, which we think we might be able to find a resolution to too. So that's at the Heckworth school entrance, the back entrance, where it is, but where the new gate will go, and hopefully that'll be resolved too. But just the same as everybody else, just to put our thanks out there, and I think especially to the residents picking up the baton. And if hadn't come out and had that meeting, it probably wouldn't have motivated us in such a expedited way and got to get our finger out, so to speak. But no, happy to support Councillor Marshall's proposals going forward as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Crothers. Richard Brodie, Councillor Brodie, you've got the microphone.
Yeah, I think I support Councillor Crothers' idea that we have a meeting with the group before the next meeting. I know that they did quite a number of sites in Annan, maybe I can't recall what Jubilee Garden was considered, but they narrowed it down to 3 sites, 2 in the Battery Street and 1 at the Mott and Bailey. And so it may be worth a chat with them. And also the consideration is that they got some money to do site investigations for these sites, and they're quite costly, so there'll be an extra charge if we had to investigate other sites. But perhaps that can be discussed at a meeting with the group.
Thank you, Councillor Brodie. Are we content to, at item 5, to note the Everhome Park as a possible primary location and agree to a further meeting or words to that effect? Well, are we all happy with that? Richard, are you happy with that?
Yeah, it seems to be the opinion of the committee is, so we'll have to go along with that.
Thank you. I would just like to echo Councillor Crothers' comments. I think it's been really good engagement with the public, also with the school, the parent council, and I have to commend Lauren Voss, the officer that came down. It was a great example of an official coming down and being really human. and doing his homework and listening and being challenged and challenging back. And I thought it was a good example of community involvement, not just with councillors, but with the officials that are involved. And it's something I'm going to promote further, because our officials get a bit of stick, and so does the council, i.e. all of us. So it's really important for me that officials as well as councillors become a little bit more human in that the face-to-face conversations with people. They might not like that all the time, but I think it's to everybody's benefit. I would also like at this point to commend Jamie's work on this. It's been above and beyond call of duty. Typical of Jamie, she's not only efficient, she's very proactive, and I'm embarrassing her now, so I'll stop. I think we all know how good she is. Right, we'll go through the recommendations. I'll pause after each one of these just to make sure we're agreed. 2.1, to note the Register of Annan Common Goods Assets and the current stated asset values outlined in Appendix 1. Sorry. Councillor Marshall, are you wanting back in?
Yeah, thank you for allowing me back in. It was just in relation to, you know, the new sculpture is using the materials from the washed away footbridges. And I just wanted, and Councillor Brody might be able to confirm this though, but I take it that the Annan History Town are also talking to the Two Bridges group, because there might be locations there, you know, because we haven't got the final location for where the bridge or bridges may be, but it might be that where the new bridges are, that might be the location for that. So I'm just wondering if that conversation has been had, and probably it is a good idea to meet with the group to discuss that, and potentially also have someone from the Two Bridges group in Annan as well at the meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
Richard, do you want back in?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I can confirm that the History Town Group and the Taylor Two Bridges committee actually are working very closely together on it, and they've got a working party which includes members of both groups, including ones like Terry that was keen to do the recycling bits on the bridge. So members of that group and members of the community involved as well. So there's a very strong, vibrant group in it. We could invite members of that ShopLife working group as well to come along to meet as well.
That would be good, thanks.
Thanks both. I'll go back to the recommendations, and first one is to note the Register of Annan Common Good Assets and their current stated asset values. Are we all agreed to note that? Yep. 2.2, consider the quote for repairs to John Bell's car park outlined in 4.6 and agree the next steps. We're happy with that?
Yep.
2.3, to note the concerns raised in paragraph 4.7 to 4.10 in relation to John Bell's car park. Is everybody happy to note that? Yes. Agree that volunteers are permitted to open and close the gates at the John Bell playing fields for a trial period of up to 6 months, and that officers will support the volunteers in line with our council's volunteering arrangements as outlined in paragraph 4.13. Is everybody content with that? Sorry.
Just as Chair, the 6 month timeline stroke time bar. Can we just get an understanding of what that's about then? Thanks.
Sorry, Councillor Crowley.
It was explicit just when George read it out there, sorry, the chairman read it out that I've not got my reading specs, apologies, right, I agree that the volunteers are permitted to open the door for up to 6 months. So it's the time limited stroke time bar for 6 months. I just wondered why I've got that particular cap on. Is that something we've got to look at again in 6 months, or is that as long as we need it to happen, or just for...
So the idea is that we would run it as a pilot scheme for 6 months and see how it proceeded. Then I would report back to members to let them know how it was.
Okay, I just wonder then if that's the case, then have that explicit then, just the reporting back within that recommendation too, if that's okay.
So leave out, take out the words, the two words off, up to, just trial period of 6 months.
I'm happy with that. It's just what Jamie's, because she's saying it is a pilot project. Let's see how it works. Let's test the water, so to speak. But then it's the reporting back to say, has it been a success? Has it not? It's that just to receive a future report to the Annan Common Good, that type of thing. Yeah.
No,
thank you.
No, that's yeah, that's a good point. So we can add that to the recommendations, because a pilot has to have an outcome. That's good, and we can get feedback from the officers and the public. Now, the 2.5, as it reads just now, is endorsed. We want to change that to note that the Everhome Play Park is considered a primary location for the Spirit of Annan's culture, and all relevant stakeholders will meet to further discuss. Would that be acceptable?
I wonder even a 2.6 and to arrange a meeting between the Annan Common Good Committee and it's Annan History Town, and
Okay.
with the rest over to you, Chair. Yep.
Everybody happy with that conclusion?
Chair.
Yep.
Could I just go back to clarify 2.2, please, with regards to the repairs to the John Bell's car park, and then agree the next steps? Obviously, there was within the body of the report, there was a quote given, and it was just to see if members are happy for me to proceed with that repair.
Yeah.
Yeah, apologies for that, Jamie. We are to agree the next steps. That's obviously, hopefully, folk will have read the various bits and pieces in here about the caveats of this in the quotes there, and it's also. Actually, I would pass it over to you just to emphasise the sort of pertinent details about the funding.
Obviously, the funding that would be, because this isn't featured, the John Bell's car park isn't featured on the Dumfries and Galloway Council, the fund would come from the Common Good Fund. There is free income there available, but we also have another request for financial assistance that will be in before the end of the financial year. So potentially that may have to come out of capital. But I can present that back at the May committee.
Councillor Crothers.
Thank you, Chair. No, I just, as you said, I think it's a very fair price to start off with, the 1850 plus VAT. It's quite a lot of work. When we were down at the school visit, you could see the extent of the work that needs done. So just agree entirely. I think it's a very fair price, and that's the way forward. No, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah.
With that review, 2.2, we're happy to consider the quote and agree the next steps. Richard Brodie, are you in the same point?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think it's a really good quote, but I still have the opinion that the park is most usually for the benefit of the school, and we should still try to pursue getting funding for it, because the gates are locked, and there's less access to the public and the common good because of that. And we received a report yesterday updating us on what's happened with our common good estate and the various and the relationship between the council and the common good and payments. I don't know if Stephen Whitelaw's there, or whether he could comment whether that could be that scenario could be considered as part of that working group's issues to see what. To make sure it's consistent with what's happening across the region.
Thank you. Yes, I'm happy to note that and feed that back to the group. I think the issue here is that if it's not an asset that's on the books of any other council service, then it's falling to the common good to meet the repair, though.
Councillor Crothers.
Thanks very much, Chair. Sorry, Richard. So the bit I was going to say and stop just there, I just stopped shy of it, was that I know as part of the discussions and deliberations that we've had, the property services have really stood up. So they've got to cover the cost of the gate. That's probably 4 or 5 grand's worth of work in real term, because maybe a wee bit of drainage work, that gully where it floods to. So I think we really were looking a gift horse in the mouth here when it comes to just getting on and getting it done. Again, we spoke with Lauren about the whole thing, I know, and we will get that. We'll have that battle. I think it came out the Parent Council too, the Annan Parent Council. There'll be a battle in regards to what Stephen just outlined. I just don't know if it's worth it. In the small amount we're talking here, 1850 against the actual benefit we're already receiving for the property services. They didn't have to do that. It's been extremely good of them, I would argue. So that's just my thoughts. I was going to say that earlier, stop short, but with Councillor Brodie bringing that in, I think I thought it was worth just bringing the attention of the committee. Thank you.
Jamie?
Sorry, and if I could just add to that, that actually in the 8 years that I have been the lead for the Common Good, properties have actually made 3 separate repairs to the car park that the Common Good have not been charged for. So.
Apologies. Councillor Brodie first, and then Councillor Marshall. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not going to make an issue of it, but it's been this working group is looking at Common Good and how it works with the council services, etc. So maybe it can be looked at.
Councillor Marshall?
Yeah, it was just when I did ask the question, you know, that it's coming out of the free income, because I'd noted that in the report, and that's why I kind of asked the question at the start. I think that I've got no problem with the 1850, but it sets a precedent because, and we've just kind of mentioned, it was picked up by property services, etc. in the past, and we've got clarification now that, you know, it's the responsibility of the common good, but this won't be the last time that we'll be asked to use, it's luckily we can use free income at the moment, but it won't be the last time probably that we'll need to actually do repairs there. And I think maybe going forward, it's maybe exploring whether or not from the school budgets of Annan Academy and Hecklegurth, that in the future there may be a contribution towards that if they're benefiting from that. But and just the ward officer also mentioned that, because there's the 2000 application that's later on in the report, but I think she did mention there's potential other application that's pending that will be brought to for us to consider before the end of this financial year, which would mean that we wouldn't have enough free income maybe for that. Or did I pick that up right?
Jamie?
Yeah, that's correct, Councillor Marshall. There is another application for financial assistance pending. It hasn't been cleared by all governance checks, so depending on when them checks are cleared, whether it would be taken out of this year's financial free income or it would go into next year's. That's the reason I haven't presented it tonight. It's just when we have no sort of gift on when the governance checks have been and the clearance has been is issued. It's back in the hands of the actual group now to try and get those the checks and balances done basically on that application.
So yeah, just to quickly come back, so ideally rather than actually dipping into our capital, it'd probably be good if that one was considered in the new financial year when we have a free income at our disposal.
Certainly, the next Common Good meeting is May, so we could push that back to the next financial year to come up with that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Marshall. So 2.1 we've noted. 2.2, I'll repeat this one. Consider the quote for repairs at the John Bell car park outlined in 4.6 and agree to the next steps. Are we content with that, given the discussion we've had? Yep.
Yeah.
2.3, note the concerns raised in 4.7, 4.1 in relation to John Bell's car park. Given the discussions, are we still happy to note that and content with the way it's going? Okay. 2.4, agree that volunteers are permitted to open and close the gate at the John Bell playing fields for a period of up to 6 months, and that officers will support the volunteers in line with the council's volunteering arrangements as outlined in the paragraph. And you want to add that the pilot should be, the feedback from the pilot should be, I don't think you word it as you please, but
The suggestion would be to receive an update report, and at that point we could extend it or otherwise. I think if it's a pilot and it's successful, we would then make the decision to extend it beyond that. Thank
I
you.
think we can reflect that, but we're happy with that. It's a good addition, Ian. And the last one, endorse the note that the Everhome Play Park is a primary location and consideration for the Spirit of Annan sculptures, and 2.6 will be a meeting of all stakeholders. Okay? Everybody happy with that? I'm having a pause now till I get my computer back up. At item 6, this is the Annan Common Good Fund 2024 Fishings Report and 2025 Season Conditions and Fees. Again, report by the head of Thriving Communities you'll have. This report is to provide members with information on the catch statistics for 2024 fishing season and invite members to review the conditions and fees for half-net licensing for the 2025 fishing season. Jamie is here to take any questions on the report, and if she's got anything to preempt the discussion, happy to pass over to her.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to make note an amendment on paragraph 4.1. The actual licences for 2024 was 18. I do apologise. I've just realised today when I was double checking on the spreadsheet there had been some double applications popped in. So that will then make 4.6 for the annual levy, and the licence fees would be £720 and not the 840.
Any queries, questions? Okay, I'll go to, sorry. Councillor Brodie?
Yeah, it's another stage in the decline of half-net, because the numbers of people that are willing to go out in the Solway and they can't take any salmon from the Solway. We're in managed decline and it's not going to get any better. So it's maybe worth another approach to Scottish Government to say, well, we're a special heritage fishing in Annan. We really need some support to keep it going. Even a small quota of fish for the fishings would help to keep interest alive in it. If we could write as a common good committee to the Scottish Government and say that, and then if we copy in the Salmon Nets Association of Scotland, and then they have regular meetings with the government, it could be raised at that level as well.
Thanks, Councillor Brodie. Didn't quite catch the essence of that. Can you explain just briefly what you would like, what you're asking this Common Good Committee to do?
Yeah. So in the past, we've lobbied the Scottish Government to have Annan half-nets given specialist heritage status. And I'd like us to reinvigorate that lobbying to try and get recognised, so that it'll get some dispensation in to catch a number of salmon per year. I think the fishermen look for 2 salmon a year to keep the fishings going. So basically, we're asking for us to write to the government again and raise the issue.
I'm reasonably content with that, but it's going to, I would suggest we need to consider it further before we actually make a knee-jerk decision on that from my position, because I'm not, you're either breaking up, Richard, or I'm not really catching everything you said, so I wouldn't like to endorse this without having something written. Councillor Crothers might be able to help me out.
Thanks. No, thanks so much, Chairman. I suppose because historically it was before your time, but so the committee's all four of us are a member of the Scottish Salmon Sea Net Association. So we meet annually with our AGM, and the bulk of the work they've been doing, Councillor Brodie tends to lead in that, actually, but they lobby Scottish Government to meet them, and it's quite proactive. It's not a negative thing at all. It is quite proactive, and I think what I hear Councillor Brodie is saying that this is like just putting a bit more power to the elbow. So asking, I think we'd be asking, it would be yourself to write on behalf of the appropriate minister, Scottish Government, to, and I think in simple terms, Richard, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you're asking for the catch and release to be slightly higher as what it is at the moment. Now, historically, we have asked to meet with them directly. I think we did it once as well, so we met with the minister. In fact, she came down. It was, I forget the name of the minister at the time, I'll come back to me. She's no longer a member of the Scottish Parliament. But she was very good, she was very active. She came down, she had a good discussion with us. It moved it on a wee bit, but I mean, it was a worthwhile, so it was non-political, it was across the board, very constructive. So I mean, I would support Richard. It would probably be by the way of a 2.6 though, that we ask a chair to write on behalf of the committee to either, we could actually get that written up or to form a meeting or something like that. Chairman, thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Crothers. Yeah, it was before my time. Apologies, Richard, I wasn't quite catching what you said, but Ian's filled the gaps in for me. And if nobody's got any objections to that, I'm quite content to take that forward on behalf of yourself, Richard, and Ian. The wording, it would be helpful if between the two of you could give me the wording so that I get it right, given my lack of background. Richard's giving me the yellow thumb.
He's giving a thumbs up. I mean, I think it should be a 2.6 in Chairman that the chair writes to the Richard maybe supporters in regards to what he thinks, because he's proposing in the first place, writes asking to the appropriate minister on behalf of the Annan Common Good Committee, asking for, it's either a meeting to discuss the heritage, he's on about the heritage in particular, the skills, go back to the half net in particular, how important that is and how we potentially lose it. Either write and ask for a meeting. Richard, leave this up to you, I think. So that, to me, that's the two options. Either ask for a meeting so the whole committee discusses it with the minister, or just asking for them to support it further and up the catch and release. But it looks like Richard's wanting in, Chairman.
Yeah, Richard, carry on.
Yeah, I think Councillor Crothers, quite right. We can certainly put the case forward. We can request a meeting. They may not meet with us, but at least we'll have raised the concern. But I'm happy with a letter and a request for a meeting and put across the heritage angle of the half net vision.
Yeah, thanks, Richard, for bringing that up. It's really helpful. It demonstrates what common good can do for even for a minority of folk, that it's important to our heritage as well. So thanks for bringing it up, and thanks, Ian, for filling in the background. And I think we've captured that for going forward. I'll move now to the recommendations. 2.1. Review the catch statistics for 2024 fishing season for half nets, detailed in Appendix 1. We're content to review that. Note that the 2025 season will require mandatory catch and release of a salmon in line with the conservation regulations as detailed in paragraph 4.4.1. Note on the grounds of conservation that no more than 2 sea trout per licence be retained in any tide for 2025 as detailed in paragraph 4.51. Agree the licence fees for 2025 as detailed in paragraph 4.6.3 to 4.6.5. And note the procedure for allocation of half net licence as detailed in Appendix 2 will again be implemented as detailed in paragraph 4.66. And the 2.6 as requested to write to the Minister expressing our support and concerns, and I'll leave it up to Jamie and Richard and Ian and I can happily sign it. So is everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Move on to item 7, the Common Good Fund application for financial assistance. This is again report by the head of Thriving Communities, which you'll have seen in the papers. Members asked to consider applications for financial assistance. think we've got one application here, and Jamie will take any questions or preempt questions if she feels the need.
Nothing to add to the report, Chair.
Councillor Crothers.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Chair. I'll keep it short. I mean, happy to note 2.1, 2.2, and I would agree as per what's outlined in Appendix 2 in regards to 2,000 towards Annan History Town as a project. Happy to support that as well. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Marshall.
Yeah, I've got no problem with it. It's just a little query with regards to, because it's for the next financial year. It's the funding for the festival in 2025. I noticed back in item 4 when we looked at the actual spend in 2023-24, we gave, because normally give up to 2,000 to groups in a financial year, but we give 4,000 to the Annan History Town group, and I take it that the 4,000 was for the 2023 summer festival, but also an application for the, this current financial year of the summer festival that happened in 2024. So it's just to kind of note that this is an application that we're giving out this financial year, but ideally it would be something that is funded in the next financial year. We've got free income. It's just that we might get an anomaly not this financial year of, well, we had an anomaly of 4,000 being awarded, but that covered 2 years. So I'm just taking, there might be another application in next financial year for 2,000, but it's just a point to make.
Jamie, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, certainly, Councillor Marshall. Obviously, it's very dependent on when the applications come in to when I present them at the committee. I think that's the reason that it looks like the 4,000 was taken out of the one financial year. It's just when the payment was made to the group. And as I say, it's dependent on when the application comes into what committee that it gets presented to. But I take your point on board. What we can do is, if members agree to award this, we can ring fence it and carry that forward so that it comes out of the next financial year for the 25 event. And I can make a note for future, if there is a future application there that comes in.
Just to make it neater. Yeah, thanks for that, Jamie.
Councillor Brodie.
Yeah, that sounds okay.
I support this application as well. I've just got a comment to make. It doesn't need to be added to the recommendations, and I'm fully supportive of Annan History Town. But what concerns, if this is a new application, the Regional Growth Fund 3,000 not confirmed, local sponsor is 6,000 not confirmed, charging for admissions 3,000 not confirmed. We obviously know that we don't know, but we'll assume that this money will come forward. But if it had been a new application without the history of Annan History Town Fund, the fund, we need to be a bit more assurance that the alternative funding, the support and funding is coming through. But that's just a comment for future awards and applications. So I think it's important that we do have some sort of confirmation and faith in the fact that the matching funding will be seen. Jamie, do you want to comment?
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm that all payments will only be made once the other sponsorship or funding is in place.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. That's reassuring. Thank you. So we'll go to recommendations. Members are asked to note the free income of 4,451.17 as detailed in paragraph 4.2. Also note the agreed grant criteria for funding as detailed in Appendix 1 and 3. consider the recommendations and agree whether to make an award of the application of financial assistance as detailed in paragraph 4.3. So happy to note the first two and agree to the application of funding. Are we all content with that?
Yep.
Thank you. Item 7, any other business deemed urgent by the chairman? I've got Ian Crothers wanting to speak.
Thanks. Would you take a wee in? Would you take a little bit of any other competent business, if that's okay? It's just very brief. I think it's been touched on already.
If it's brief, because the kick-off's not far away.
Right, I'll be very brief, right. So you'll be aware of it, but I don't think all members of the committee are, because I don't think, because we got written to Easter, and I'm sure I heard mention of it Easter, earlier as I came into the meeting. I think Councillor Marshall, maybe Brewery have touched on it, in regards to Mark Thompson, wrote to elected members Tuesday. Was it a couple of days ago? Or a day or a couple of days ago, whenever, I think it was maybe yesterday. So he is a risk and assurance manager. So I just got, so it's official, so it's no matter sensitive to, just because obviously 2 members here haven't heard this. So what he said is, dear elected members, following a recent briefing to the senior leadership team on the senior leadership team of the council he's talking about on the progress of the Common Good Working Group, I was asked to provide a briefing to elected members, a task I am now discharging via this email. Since taking on the role of chair of this group since mid-24, it has been clear that the subject is complex with a long history, and there has been a number of strands to untangle before considering the way forward. So without getting into all that, there's a number of things. What he offered up then after that, without getting into all the detail, was a briefing to elected members of Fries and Galloway Council through the political groups. Councillor Dempster, Jim Dempster, mid and Upper Nithsdale, came in on the back of that and said, listen, could you actually speak to the common goods themselves? And I thought that was probably quite a good idea, and I thought if we could agree that tonight, at least had a small discussion about it, and even asked, if nothing else, I would ask you to consider it as part of your agenda setting, that we actually ask Mark to come and present to the Annan Common Goods to tell us what he's thinking, what his thoughts are in regards to this whole subject matter, if that's okay, Chair.
No, thanks very much for bringing that up. I think that's an excellent idea, especially for a rookie like me. It would be really good to get a bit better understanding of the common good. I know from internal discussions in my own group, we're dashed lucky to have somebody as good as Jamie, because there is a lot of unhappiness in our common good, and the people that have been there for a long time seem to have a lot of knowledge of the past that may have been forgotten or So I think we're lucky that we've got Jamie to support us, but I know there would certainly be a benefit to me, and of course all the support that we'll get here is really useful. So I would support that 100%. Any other comments from the other councillors and yourselves?
No, thanks very much, Chair. Apologies, I didn't switch my off. If that's great, I would move that formally then in any other business that we get an update report from Mark Thompson, or a report stroke presentation from Mark Thompson in regards to his remit as chair of that working group to the common good at a future committee, whenever that may be. And like yourself, I think we're speaking across parties as we do, so we have members in our groups from right across all the common goods, the Fries and Galloway, Annandale, and Common Good, I would argue, is by far in front, away in front. I'll actually go back and watch them, again, whether it's Lockerbie Common Goods, Stranraer Common Good, the Fries Common Good, they're all Coodbury. We are miles in front of them, and that is down to Jamie and Amanda in particular, I would argue, and obviously the members, obviously I wouldn't miss them out. And Henry McLaren was a great person in regards to getting a lot of this the way it was set up too, and I'm sure you'll have the same level of contribution, George, as you go forward as chair. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ian. I think that's really useful. And apologies, Amanda, for you just sit there and work away in the background. And I know the work that you do in the background. So register thanks to both of you for all your efforts in helping us councillors. So if we're all content with that, I'll close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.